Cool, that still works. And go ahead and post my stream announcement. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Working on adventures in Listoria. Game dev. I really should bring up my chat stuff. Yay. Okay. Yes. Yes. Alright. For those of you tuning into the stream, welcome. It's been a while, but we are back to working on Adventures in Listoria, which is my role-playing game I've been working on for quite some time. I've had a lot of things happen in life, as you might be able to tell, and so we haven't had the chance to really work on the game lately. All these due dates for issues are supposed to be... all this is supposed to be done already, goodness, and we obviously haven't been able to do them, so now we're going to be doing all of this. At least starting it. I'm gonna try and focus on working on the game at least a little bit every day. That's kind of the key to game dev, is you just gotta chip away at it. But we do have something specific to focus on today. Very recently, I started implementing the... where is it? There is a monster. Here we go. It's called the Skeleton Captain, right? And the Skeleton Captain is unique in that it has this flag. And this flag makes every single unit gain 30% attack, move, and animation speed. And so this animation speed, like all this is essentially a speed up, so to speak. It's a boost to essentially everything that is being done to this unit. So realizing that this was a thing, I needed to implement a status effect corresponding to that. So I think recently I added something for that. And I need to figure out where it is first. So we haven't worked on the code base in a little while, so it's going to be a little bit of exploration, but hopefully we can figure this out. So I'm looking for effects. Specifically, the effect I just recently added. Well, you know what? Tell you what. I will first go to monsters and see what we recently added. So Skeleton Barbarian. I think Skeleton Barbarian might do this as well. Yeah, here we go. We call this the Hasten buff. So this is when we needed to implement this. When we realized that, hey, we are building something that requires this buff. Oh, and we're already in the Skeleton Barbarian branch. So if we look at the changes since the last time we worked on this code base, here we go. And here I just literally wrote the conditional statement for handling this, Hasten. So this is the buff type, Hasten, and it looks like we even have the implementation for it probably done already. I remember doing this, and I think my logic was, what if we feed the elapsed time modified into the AI? So for example, this code runs, this strategy runs, whatever, it does its thing. I'm going to go back to main game loop, and we're going to look at that real quick, because I believe this is where it all begins. On user update calls all these different things, including the, whatever the game state currently is, the update function for it. Global game updates, that's where we're going. Global game updates is going to call, well, many things, but I think it will... Oh, you know what we're probably going to look at? We're probably going to look at state. Probably go look at game run game state, because in here we go ahead and look at the source file for it. I'll pull you over here. We'll see update entities. So this was my strategy for implementing this, and this isn't I don't know if this works yet, so this is what we're gonna find out. But look at this. When we call player's update function, we actually multiply the elapsed time by the haste percent. So depending on what the haste percent is, that's going to actually determine how fast the player thinks we have moved. And then I believe I went with the same strategy for monsters. So let's look for the update function for that. It doesn't look like I did that here, but let's investigate a little further. That's interesting, because I thought I did do that. Maybe I only did it for the player at first in order to test, because it doesn't look like I've done anything in here, which is problematic because I don't think it works. I need to pull up the git log to look at previous changes, because I swore I said I implemented it. So we're gonna look at branch history. This is every commit we've done. Updated haste percent buff and implementation. By the way, the git log is probably the best way for you to go and look at what you've done if you haven't looked at your game in a very, very long time. All right. So it looks like this is all that we've done, because I'm looking at the rest and they are up. It's up to master, so we're not deviated that far from it. So let's look at the changes that happened with this particular commit, because that'll tell us a lot. So we had changes in Adventures in Listoria. So yeah, in order to simulate attack speeds, movement speeds, and other boosts via haste, we're going to artificially affect all FELAPS time retrievals to make it seem like everything is faster for this unit. That's fine. We also changed monsters, so this is what I'm most curious about. So here, we have haste percent, we're going to set to 100%, and there's a change down here. Oh, here we go. We only adjust the elapsed time when we run the strategy. Is that ideal? Is that what we want? I'm just trying to think if there's any other, like, if there's any problems with this, because what I think is going to happen... Oh my god, it's Plasticky! Hi, Plasticky. Welcome to the stream. My cutie. Nice to see you. Currently catching up on game stuff, seeing where we left off and what we have to do today. Doing everything. I'm doing everything, girl. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, it looks like every single timer is not affected by this haste percent. So I think this, if I'm being for real, I don't think this code is in the place we want it to be. So I'm probably going to change that, because this is like a hack, and I don't like this hack right now. So I'm probably going to change this. Mostly because if it's a haste buff where it affects literally everything and it's happening to the player in that way, the monsters also need to be affected in the same way. So I don't like what I've done here. This looks like code that old Amy wrote that I don't particularly agree with. So I'm going to make a note that we are going to probably fix that. I'm going to do that right now. We're in the Skeleton Barbarian branch. I'm going to go straight to... Where are we? Monster CPP, and we're just going to write that real quick. That way I don't lose track of what's going on. And we can create a new issue out of it, which is nice. This is around line... What line are we on? We are around line 400. There we go. Here's our problematic code. So we're just going to reference in a new issue here. We're going to say problematic monster haste implementation. One that I don't particularly agree with. And we're just going to say, let's move this to be outside or part of. I'll have to think a little bit more about how I want to do that. The monster's entire update loop, update function. So all timers will properly sync. Because what will probably happen is if we don't handle all the elapsed times, including all the timers, you're going to end up in this weird scenario where everything else happens slowly, but then the monster AI itself happens quicker, which kind of doesn't work out, because like attack timers won't work. Maybe like invulnerability timers will be funky. It's just gonna make everything weird for the game when everything's not hastened. So yeah, I really don't like that at all. I really, really don't like that. I'm gonna call this a bug. So that's one issue. It's a good thing I checked to see how we implemented this, because we would have found this bug later anyway. So here it is for the player. Now, for the player, the only thing that we did was make it so it's outside of the update loop. So that's what we have to do for monsters too. That's when I realized, hey, something's wrong here. I don't like how I did that. And then there's that. So I think we're good now. I think that's all I want to check. Run strategy. We just insert Skeleton Barbarian. Cool. All right, so that wasn't actually as involved as I thought it was going to be. So now we can get down to business. So addressing this issue, again, it starts around line 412 of monster.cpp. So we will immediately go there and work on that. Okay, so the idea behind this is correct, but it's in the wrong place to where it's not going to affect everything else in a monster. First, I'm going to check if update has a rewritable FELAPS time. It doesn't. It's a const. So because it's const, we can't change it. Like, we can't modify it in function. That's by design. Otherwise, it would be very confusing. So instead, what we're going to do is inside of update entities contains update monsters, and update monsters contains the update function for every monster right here. This is where I wanted it to go. And so this is where we're putting it. So we're going to go back here. Now, while I am doing this, I want to point out that you can see with proper use of get and very, very carefully designed code and structured code, you can jump right back into a project you haven't worked on for a few months pretty easily. One pitfall that a lot of developers run into if they're new to programming is coming back to code that they just cannot understand. Multiply that by a project that has a couple hundred source files and tens of thousands of lines of code. How do you manage to keep up and remember everything that goes on? You need proper documentation, you need good naming, you need a lot of careful design decisions with your programs. That way, when you come back to it, everything still makes sense. Your code should be as readable as possible. There should be no, like, letter I's that you don't know what they do, no F's, no E's, no, just single letters. You want comments when you're not exactly sure what you're doing and you can't explain it via your code. But ideally, your code should write itself. So here we are. We're going to replace this with the Pixel Game Engine's elapsed time at this point because right now we don't have any other way to get that information. Oh, we're actually in the Adventures in Listoria class still. So this should be available? It says it couldn't be located. I saw red squiggles earlier. I don't know if the compiler's just being slow or if it's actually a problem yet. There we go. So these aren't being detected, which is fine. We're supposed to use get elapsed time here, so we will, in replacement of that. So we're just storing the original elapsed time because we have to revert to it afterwards. We're only affecting the monsters themselves, and then we're going right back into the original elapsed time. I can remove the games. They're redundant for being in here. And then we have get haste %, which comes from the monster itself. There we go. And we have an assert or a check where, hey, make sure the elapsed time, it goes back to its original. Otherwise, we did something terribly wrong. Instead of using get elapsed time in here now we use... Oh, actually, we can still use get elapsed time because set elapsed time, I added this function where we can literally change what the elapsed time of the engine reports is. So we can actually pass that in now and it will be correct. Cool. And that is our strategy for handling this. Now, do we know if any of this works yet? That is a whole nother question to get through. So we have run strategy here, which is just going to use get elapsed time now, which should be adjusted at this point. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and build this. And while I am building this, we're going to look at what we're doing next. So the Skeleton Barbarian has a couple of behaviors which are outlined inside of... Oops. I'm going to try that again. Barbarian. Outlined in this source file, where I just have a bunch of switch statements for each of its phases. So normal behavior is probably run towards the player. When entering a 400 range to a player, we will start the Whirlwind Attack. The Whirlwind Attack has already been designed before. It has been designed by the Pirate Marauder. So we're actually using the Pirate Marauder sprite right now as a placeholder for the Skeleton Barbarian. If I go to our game assets and we go to monsters, Skeleton Barbarian. This is probably just using the Pirate Marauder's current sprites. Since I haven't commissioned sprites yet for these, yeah, it's just using I was using a goblin sprite. Is that right? I guess so. That's funny. I was being a little silly with that one. Okay. How's our build? Our build failed. We have a format call that isn't formatted right. Let's see. There are 2 blanks to fill out here and 1 isn't filled out. Has this code never compiled and I committed it? That's funny. Trying to use phase blank. Phase does not exist. It's literally just this twice. If that's the only problem with it, that's funny. I feel like that should have been taken care of a long time ago. It's kind of nice to be back coding. It's been a while. I had a lot of fun working on this game, and I still do. It gives me enjoyment to code. Alright, so game built. That's a good sign. We don't know if haste actually works yet, but we're gonna at least commit everything we have so far to say that we have fixed the haste implementation and problem number 97 is resolved. So fixed issue number 97, monster proper monster haste buff implementation. I don't know what else changed. Like, we did have Adventures in Lestoria changed. Okay, that was for the monsters, that's fine. The monster code itself got reduced again. Okay, that's fine. And we always put our release build version here, just for tracking purposes. Release build 12268. Wow, our first commit in so long! Woo! I'm gonna get some water real quick. Ugh. It's nice to be working on the game again. Okay, I need to put... hold on. The music went to my TV. I swear... we are doing... Here we go. That is really loud. There we go. Yay. Just a little bit of background noise. Nothing loud or anything. Oh yeah, I tried my game on Steam Deck recently, the demo, and it works wonderfully. I absolutely love it. Oh, speaking of which, I want to run the game real quick. Oh, we need to go to the right startup project. Whee. Says start project. Oh, that means I have to... okay, yeah. What happened? Image loading for Skeleton Barbarian failed. Oh, I probably just had to redo the asset pack. Always forget. I don't remember what it's called either. I think it's called Game Pack. There it is. I believe I just delete it and let it run it, and it should be okay. Excellent. Why can't I resize the window? Why can't I resize the window? Wait, huh? That's... also, NG Tantai. Thanks for the follow! I can't resize this window! What happened? Don't tell me I modified the game engine file trying to do that window resizing stuff. I swore I did that in like a test project, not in the actual project. So, I think if I go to... that's loud, hold on. I go to, Windows resize, I think around here. Let me see. Side being dragged. Oh no. I hope I didn't have code for this. Window pause changing. Adjust Windows dimensions to... ah. Why is this in here? Why was I testing this code in this branch specifically? I don't like this. I need to find out when I did this and why. So another thing we can do, thank you Git, is we can look at either view history for a file, or we can look at the blame. The blame tells us when a specific line was modified. So if we look here, on January 31st of 2025, we added this code. 2025, in terms of the game's history of development, is pretty recent, so that's a little concerning. Let's look at what happened with this. So we had an upstream sync on September 11th. What commit was this? Commit add placeholder item graphics for chapter 4 items. I don't know why this is in here, but I don't like it. This is really weird. This shouldn't be in here. Like, this literally messes with the window resizing. Why is it in my build? Like, this is test code. This doesn't even work. Oh my god. Okay, well, this is problematic because this is a branch, but it's in the main build itself, so I need to not only fix this in here, I need to fix it in the master branch. So really I need to make a new branch to get rid of this code. So I'm gonna start a new issue, and I'm gonna reference this code. This is bad. I don't know what I was thinking. I was probably trying to do like a side thing. I probably forgot to put in a branch, and I'm like, commit to master, everything will be fine. Obviously everything's not fine. We never learn, do we? We never learn. Alright, and there's the bad code. I can't believe I did this. Like, I legitimately thought I did this in a nice little, branch where I was just testing code, because you test code in separate branches. That's how it's supposed to be. For being a bad game developer. Alright. Fix as in get rid of buggy window resizing code, or at least move it from main master build. God, how terrible. Okay. So I did that. That's another to-do. So I already committed a fix for number 97, and then I realized this, but this is like a whole separate thing. Okay, good thing I checked for that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close this, because I fixed it. Yeah. And issue number 98. We're gonna address that now by moving over to the master branch and doing that. And then I'm going to cherry pick that commit back into here. So I'm not... wait. Oh, let's just stash the game pack commit, the game pack addition, because that's whatever. We rebuild the game pack all the time anyway. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Okay. I usually put something else here. Don't know. I usually put my to-do list over there. There we go. To-do. Always have a to-do list. And whenever you get done with working on your project for the day, you write in your to-do list what you just did and what you need to work on the next day. That way when you look at it tomorrow, you know where you left off. It's nice. Alright, so I'm back in the master branch, I hope. And I'm going straight to our game engine. I can't believe I'm modifying our game engine right now, of all things. That's insane. We don't touch the game engine, guys. I can't believe not only that, but I left buggy code in the game engine. I'm literally just getting rid of this. This doesn't need to be here. It's buggy and it doesn't work, and I guess I really wanted this feature where resizing the window would adjust the aspect ratio, and it just doesn't work. Or if I want it to work, I need to put it in its own branch. So I can do this, but I need to... I'm cutting that. Actually, let me see what variables are associated with it, because we can get rid of that too. So I think this is new, aspect ratio. I don't think that was there before. So that's a new variable. We also have side being dragged. That's a new variable. If I'm going to get rid of this, I'm going to get rid of all associated variables, because we don't need those variables. Old is from here, so that's a local variable. I think everything else looks good, so I'm just gonna, yeah, get rid of it. Get rid of this, get rid of these. We shouldn't need those variables anywhere else in the code. I think we're set. First of all, let's make sure it works. Because this is the main game engine file and everything references the game engine file, the whole game has to be rebuilt. So this build will take a little bit of time. The last time I tested my game's code with the full rebuild, it took like 3 minutes to rebuild on this computer. And this is a beefy computer, mind you. This is a really good computer. So the fact it takes 3 minutes on multi-processor compilation is insane. That's how big this codebase is now. It's a pretty big game for, you know, just a solo developer. I like to brag about that. Why, if you have a game that takes a while to build, you get to brag. You get bragging rights. You worked for that. I just spilled water, so I guess while this is building, I'll clean that up. Hello world! Oh, I didn't compile! Why didn't it compile? Something else uses... oh. So this probably wasn't here originally either, or it just returned to 0. I don't think it was used for anything else. Man. I hope everybody's doing well. It's funny that we're basically looking at code that we committed exactly 1 year ago. It's almost exactly 1 year. But as we saw with the get blame, there's a lot of code that is also just... Here, we'll pull this up real quick, just for funsies while we're waiting for it to build. Because I always like to look at this. This is... history of a long game project is always very fun. Because this is the main file, so we can expect that there's a lot of history in here. A lot of fun history. It's taking a minute. There's a lot. It's gotta go back in time. You'll have to see it though. There's some commits around December of 2024. A lot of the like internal stuff. When we were originally doing Steam integration and making the game more cross-platform friendly. By the way, it was so exciting to see my game on the Switch. Oh my god. Or not the Switch, the Steam Deck. Like running on the Steam Deck. Oh my god. I was so happy. For the first time, I was like, I legit have like a game on a little console. That's really cute. So it was awesome to see the game on there, and it's kind of inspired me to come back and be like, hey, I need to really finish this game now. I want to see the full game on that thing, because that's really cute. So yeah, here's some commits from 2023. Mostly stuff, code that's just lingered around. All this class code, like, class code hasn't changed in forever. I think the build is almost done. Oh, it's done. Okay. Anyway, the whole reason I did this was I wanted to check, by running the game. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Oh, we have the default pack ID again. Okay. Hold on. That means I need to probably... So, we have a file called pack key, and you're supposed to insert a special pack key here to decrypt the game assets, because the game assets technically are commercial assets. So if I don't include that here, the game won't build the assets properly. So I need to grab that. It's been a minute. I'm going to have you all stare at this for a second while I do that. Okay, I think I got it. Hopefully I did this correctly. So when I run the game now, it's going to use that special key to encrypt and decrypt all the contents. And hopefully we'll be good. And hopefully I'll be able to resize this damn window. Help! It's still not resizing. Oh my god. There must be more code to this that... You know what I should have done? Okay, so hold on. Let's stop being dumb about this, right? If we know we've modified code at whatever this commit was, then surely this commit also has every other change we've made when we made all this. So we should be able to go back to that commit and look at specifically all the lines that have changed. Because clearly it's not just that, because I can't resize the window. So there must be other stuff going on. So we're going to look at the history of this file. We know this was from around the September or the January 30th, 31st changes. So we know it has to be there. So we're gonna look at this. No stepping! Oh my gosh, no stepping. Yeah, we're working on game. It's game working hours. Why does this keep popping up? Hello? Oh, it's the... Hold on. That's how I want. Can I look at the commit details, please? So the commit details will tell me what changed. So nothing's changed about this file in here. Oh wait, yeah, it has. Right there. Okay. So we can see these two lines were added. That much we kind of suspected. This has been added. This whole chunk has been added. But that is it. So did I do something wrong? If this is all that's been changed... Unless we're comparing it to my current file. What commit are we on? We're currently on... I don't even know. So I'm working on my RPG game again. Yay! Start working on that again. Because I want to make sure I make progress on it this year. Like, actually start making progress on it again. Yeah. Just have a little something fun to do as well. It's my game. I wanna finish it. After seeing it being played on that little Steam Deck that I got Gabby, like, I super want to finish it. Like, it's super exciting to see your game end up, like, on a little console you can play. Yeah. Plus, also, I would like to try to apply to, you know, some kind of game development, like, studios as well. And if I have a Steam game, like, officially released, a full game, like, that's pretty impressive. Like, that automatically gives me a lot of points. Even what I have right now is already very impressive, but it would be nice to finish, like, finish. Because I have a lot of little, like, game jam stuff. Of course, every game developer does, but getting a full-blown project, thousands and thousands of lines of code, published and released, you're pretty legit if you can do that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are a lot of game studios down here. Yeah, Gabby and I were talking about it. It'd be fun. Or even just remote, like, indie game studios too. Working remote for them. That'd be fun too. I would love to do that. That'd be a very, very fun career option. Alright, well, this is a problem because I removed all the offending code, and according to this, that's all I changed, and it's not working, so yay. Oh, wait, I see something else here. Windows Event Handler. Hold on, this is like cut halfway in the screen. Okay, we're going back. I found some more suspect code that doesn't look right. So we're back to the Windows WM Move event. Okay, the LC window event. So this is a callback, which I think got added Like, I saw this and I'm like, this must be new. I don't remember this being here. Window event. But it gets called. So I'm like, I don't think I wrote this code. But seeing it now, window placement, get window placement, this actually moves the window. That's fine though. Yeah, this is all fine. Okay. Mouse move, update mouse. I don't think update mouse causes a window resize. We can make the next Silk song. It would be fun. It would definitely be very fun. Update window size. So we do have update viewport here. So something's not right. Just for a sanity check, hitting rebuild, we're up to date. Now this is turning into a head scratcher because it's like, why was this code even in here in the first place? This code doesn't even work. So this code not working is a huge problem because this is literally a window resizing. Why isn't window resizing working? There must be something else going on. We might have to debug this actually. Because the only way the window, yeah, like the only place the window position gets updated is the actual set window pause calls. Now, the question is this called from anywhere else? That's the real question. So, under game settings, when we start, of course, set the window position based on where last was. We have one in a Windows header file. That's not our code. We have a set pause in OC Pixel Game Engine. That's just the actual function. Game settings, set window pause. Again, this is when we toggle the full screen. That's fine. Everything else is invoked by my game itself, and there shouldn't be any like on window resize event as far as I'm concerned. Let me just make sure we don't have that. Resize. Yeah. Nothing, no resize callback or anything like that. It's very strange. This window should not be bound like this. The behavior is supposed to be you can extend this window as large as you want. You know what? Maybe it's the viewport clamping thing I added. This could still be my fault in another way. Okay. Maybe at some point I added some viewport clamping without realizing it, and it's messed up everything. Man, why'd I have to touch this code? Alright, so my next hunch is something about the viewport that we messed up. Maybe there's like a clamp somewhere. Like, if I had to constrict a viewport, there's gotta be like a clamp function. Ooh. This would be when we first make the window pane. Okay, we're clamping to monitor bounds so our window doesn't end up outside the monitor. That's fine. Set window size. Ooh, okay, here we go. What are we clamping to? It looks like we're clamping to 100 to 1000. This looks like test code to me. This screams test code. Like, I put this here probably out of frustration to see if I could limit the window size. There's absolutely no way that this code is legit. Like, it shouldn't be in here. So this is the actual width and actual height. It doesn't need to be clamped by anything because the user gets to decide that. So I'm moving these back out, the clamps go away, and we're left with this. Also, I think when I'm streaming, I usually use 170% at least. That way it's a little more visible on stream. Maybe 180. 200? 200 looks too big. I don't think I stream like that. Let's do 180. That's fine. Okay, I think that's the offending code. That's the only other thing I can think of. Oh, goodness. I'm wearing the Tamagotchi shirt we got from Uniqlo on their site. It's got a little Tamagotchi on it. Wing! Here we go. And the back's really cute too. Yeah. I also got Gabby one. She has a different one. It just actually says Tamagotchi on it. It's very cute. Well, we didn't actually go. We got it online. We should have gone though. We had to choose between Curry or Uniqlo because both were gonna close, so we chose Curry. It still doesn't resize. No. Oh, the event was wonderful. Gabby got like a million things because she loves all her trinkets, of course. Alright, so that wasn't the fix. That didn't affect anything either, though. Curry is the better option. Of course you would go for the food option too. But no, Uniqlo can be done anytime. And also we just had, we had a lot of options online, so that's what we did. Okay, so something else is causing... So what I think we need to do now is... We're looking for any code. Again, I think I got rid of that clamp, but there might be more clamps. Maybe we should look for that first. We're looking for any code that constricts the window size in any way that is... Oh, I saw some more here. Hold on. This is... No, this is for setting the window position, but we shouldn't actually have our... What are we clamped to? We're clamped to just the position, the sizes of the monitors, I think. So that's fine. Yeah, it was quite the trip. I do agree. Next time we'll try to plan a little better. I'm getting pinged and I don't know why. Oh, yay! Plasticky post. So I was watching a video of somebody programming earlier. I like to watch a lot of like hobby game developers make just whatever. And he was saying how like programming is a bunch of like little side quests. And right now we are on a side quest. But that's all programming comes down to, is you find some kind of bug, it leads you a certain way. We had a certain, like, we had a plan, we had something to do, and then we ended up on a side quest where like, oh, this bug happened, now everything is messed up because of this bug. Well, or we're focusing on this bug. We end up on a side quest. Yeah. So here we are. We are doing it as well. Everybody does it. Every programmer. It's great. So nothing in here screams to me there's anything wrong. I will look again at what I wrote here for move window, because I'm starting to think right minus left is our width, bottom minus top is our height, and that's what we called move window width, adjust window rectangle, get window placement. That's just a Windows call. Alright, thanks for stopping by, Diamond. It's nice talking to you, as always. Hope your meeting goes well. Bye. Figuring this out is gonna be annoying. I guess we just really have to look at all the changes that happened to this file, maybe even potentially go back a little bit. Like, we can go back to a point where, okay, this wasn't happening, so this commit is where everything was fine, and then after this, we had problems. That's another stance we could take, because this is every single time the file has changed. I want to see if there was any mention of Windows, like resizing or something. Like, resize? Because you know what? I think I have an issue that talks about that. Okay, that has nothing to do with it. But let me look at issues real quick. Because I have an issue about this. Well, okay, there's capture mouse toggle. Resizing, here we go. Resizing window should keep aspect ratio. If we resize the window, we should have borders exist. So 6 months ago, I added the minor label. So I suspect if I added the minor label at this time, and then the last time I looked at it was December 19th, which is roughly a month before I actually did this like window resizing change. But if I added the minor label, then that's telling me I looked at it at some point and said, hey, this might be something worthwhile. So did I make any changes around that time frame? I made a change in May on this file, and I see it has to do with the HTML color code. So it looks like I changed the game engine's text rendering a little bit. And then I probably did some weird stuff with fixed standard string conversions. It's also an upstream sync, so it could have been code that came from some other commit that I was just catching up on. So there's that possibility as well. Let's take a look, because I can do compare with previous. That's a good way to do it. So here it is. This is clearly test code that got changed at some point. So I must have been messing with it. Ooh. Oh, this is what's limiting it. It's right here. Okay, good. I'm glad we looked at that. I was probably testing some stuff again, and that's what happened. So we're gonna go straight to get min. So if we wanted to restrict the window, this is how we do it in Windows. I'm gonna get rid of that now. That should fix it. Great. It's stupid. All right, I think we did it. Finally fixed it. Yay! God. So hopefully with this fixed, we'll be good. And we can continue on what we're actually supposed to be doing today. What time is it? We're at 1:33. That's not bad. We're making decent time. I did plan on doing stamina today. Maybe I'll do stamina... I'm trying to think when I would realistically do it. I think tonight we're doing the opposite. We're gonna DDR first, and then we're gonna come back and do stamina. So I could potentially do stamina now. We go DDR, and then Gabby does her DDR set later, or her stamina set later. Have to decide. Okay, how about this? We make sure this is fixed. There is one other thing. I want to add unit tests. I need to make sure the haste works, and then I need to add a unit test to make sure the haste doesn't break stuff in the future. Because the haste could potentially break things, and that's where we're going to run into issues. So now that the build has been successful, I'm gonna run the game. I see the window's already bigger. Oh, thank God. We're not limited anymore. Hello, wife! Hi, welcome back! Alright, we just fixed a major bug in the game engine that apparently has lingered for the last 6 months. Okay, so that's good. Alright. Yeah, welcome back. What do the bugs taste like? They are they're very much like cherry raspberry flavored. These ones. Because they're the ones that just seep into everything and ruin everything. Release build 12263. Also, you just missed Diamond. Diamond said hi earlier. Please save 4 for me. Oh, we have plenty, girl. Don't worry. We have plenty. Look at all the... Wait, these aren't bugs. But that's a bug. These are bugs. Kinda. They're technically bugs in the sense they don't exist yet. I'm gonna call her right now. No, she's in a meeting! Don't call her! She's in a meeting! Business meeting! Don't call Diamond! Don't call Diamond! Please. I'm in a meeting! Why are you here? No, I love you. Thanks for stopping by. Okay. So this fixes issue number 98, in which we introduced a bug that I never fixed. Issue number 98. Resolved. Removed offending code. Okay. Did I eat? I ate breakfast. I ate breakfast. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. This should have been in a separate branch, by the way. We should not be committing to master. It's bad to commit to master. But who cares? We break all the rules. Don't ellipses me. More than cereal? No. No. Alright, look. I'm going to be done soon. And then I will eat something before I step, okay? Is that fair? Is that fair? I think that's fair, right? What do you mean fail to push? Huh? What do you mean fail to push? Oh, I literally made it so we can't push to master by default. That's funny. I literally locked myself out of this. So I have to, if I ever want to push to master and I'm sure I know what I'm doing, I have to go to branches and I have to turn off branch protection because I purposely did this. So I have to say that I'm allowed to push into this right now if I want to push it. That way I enforce myself to use separate branches. It's a good practice. So now I'm going to push the branch for real. We're not supposed to push into master normally, and then I'll turn branch protection back on because we're not supposed to be allowed to do this. I'm breaking the rules. I'm going to make you eggs and toast when I get home. You will eat. Aw, she's gonna make me food, everybody. That's so sweet of her. I love her. She's so nice. My love. Only if you do your chores. Ah. Okay. I will do my chores. I promise. Okay. This is now closed because we fixed it. So I'm going to cherry pick this issue back into Skeleton Barbarian because that is what we're currently... Actually, what I can do is I want to upstream merge with Master. So I am simply going to merge Master into Skeleton Barbarian, which means Skeleton Barbarian, this branch, ends up being up to date with whatever the game currently is at. There's a name for this. I think it's just... I think you just call this, like, bringing your branch up to present. There's a name for this, like an actual term, but I don't know it. So I'm going to hit merge. It's a conflict, so they're going to ask me what to keep. And so I will keep latest, of course. Actually, I'm going to keep the current, because whatever we're working on here is going to be later in terms of version. And we're going to keep current, yes. Then we'll commit. Upstream merge, or up to date with master. We should be good. Excellent. Yay. All right. So the next thing I need to do is to test haste. I was thinking of the best way to do this, and we are going to be writing unit tests for it eventually. But before we do unit tests, let's just test how it works in the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going into player, and I'm going to go to the update function. And all I'm going to do here, as an easy way to test, is I'm going to add in a hotkey I can press to modify what the haste of the player is. And I will just have the player's haste be some crazy value for a minute. We'll give the player a buff that gives them haste, essentially. Just to test. We want to see how it works, what it messes with, does it give what we need it to do. According to the definition, haste is supposed to give us attack speed, move speed, and animation speed. Essentially, everything about the character is faster. This would also include like invulnerability times and all that nonsense. So everything feels sped up. That's essentially what it should feel like. If it doesn't feel like that, then we probably didn't implement it right. We also might do a vignette effect when the player has haste. Right now there's no way for the player to get haste, but technically if the player ever did, I think a vignette effect is perfect for this particular setup. So that's what we're gonna do. So first, we're just gonna say if we press the let's do the K key. We're just gonna give the player a buff. So add or give buff. I think it's called add buff. I'm pretty sure. There it is. Choose the type. We're gonna choose hasten. We get to choose the duration and the intensity. So let's do a 10-second duration with an intensity of, let's do like 30% first. I think 30% is a fair amount. And let's just see how that runs. Come on, game. We stuck? Oh, hold on. I have to redo the game pack. Okay, so we need to test haste. So I'm just gonna go into any level, really. And so this is normal, obviously. Normal play, nothing crazy. And then we have, if I press the K key, oh, I move faster. I definitely attack faster. There's no visual or anything right now. But you can see it's slowed down, and then I press K again. Yeah, you can see it gets faster all of a sudden. I move faster. Oh, casting's faster, for sure. I'm gonna do haste one more time. You can even see the cooldowns. So, interestingly, the cooldowns go down faster during haste, because in theory, the cooldown timer is directly affected by haste. So I do like this. I think this is a very good implementation of haste, is that everything just feels faster when you have haste. We need to try this on monsters as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make every monster that spawns have, let's just do 100% haste. It should make it feel like the monsters are zooming around really quick, and that should make it clear that it's working and it's doing what we need it to do. All the AIs should be running twice as fast when we do that. So I'm gonna get rid of this now. We just proved visually that it works. So now we're going to go to game run. Let's go to update entities. Update more like when a monster spawns. So let's go to the monster file. And I think we have a spawn. Yeah. Well, we have a spawn function. Yeah, there it is. That's the spawn function I was looking for. Hello? I mean, I can just search for it here. It's literally right here. So spawn monsters. So here's where we make the monster, and we can do whatever we want to the monster at this point in time. So I'm just gonna say for every monster that spawns, this is a shared pointer. So we're gonna do new monster, add buff. I have caps lock right now. That's fun. So we're gonna give it the hasten buff, and we're gonna do, let's just do infinite and an intensity of 100%. So everything's gonna be double speed according to that. Every monster. So let's see how that turns out. It's gonna be kind of wild. It should make the game very hard. It might be a fun, like, hard mode thing to turn on, is every monster has haste. So I was thinking about it, when the game does get released, there's the potential to add in a lot of fun little, like, challenges to it to adjust the difficulty of the game. I think that would be a fun thing to explore as we get closer to game release. So if I just run this, it should be it should be pure chaos, if I'm being for real. Yeah. So this guy shoots way faster than he normally would. The bullet goes way faster, and yeah, he runs away and moves around quicker, because that's just what happens when you speed everything up. And these guys are, oh my god. Yeah, so that's wild, isn't it? That's fun. So yeah, Like I said, it was gonna be chaotic, and it definitely is. God, actually insane. Even the birds are faster. That's funny. Alright, so that clearly works. It works very effectively too, and it's a very easy way to implement that effect. Because I was thinking about, I'm like, if haste affects a lot of things, I have a lot of my code where things move around, things attack. Like, there's just so many places where all these different things happen, and you have to think, how am I going to write code? Am I going to go to every spot where I've moved a player or moved a monster, I've attacked, I'm casting things? Like, do I really have to go to every single spot in my code and rewrite that? Or can I just make it so there's one multiplier, and like the monster's update code just takes this elapsed time variable and applies it to everything, and it turns out that's the case. It works out very, very well. So yeah, very good. So we're gonna commit this. We're gonna consider this mostly a success. The only thing we have to do is add some unit tests to make sure it continues to work. So this is this commit is confirmation of hasten buff working for. Do I have a issue for this? Because if so, I can reference it now. I don't think I do. It probably was a past issue. No, it's just a requirement for whatever we're currently building. Yeah, so that's fine. So yeah, confirmation of hasten buff working for players and monsters. And this is release build 12271. Yay. So the next thing I want to do is write some unit tests. Just some basic ones like the haste buff should make it so when the player moves for half a second, they move 30% further than they would if they didn't, right? And the cooldown of abilities should be lowered more than they would normally be. And for monsters, the same thing. They move farther. They attack faster. Like, we can test attack rates. We can test movement rates. And for the player cooldown as well. And I think that should be it. That will be a satisfactory unit test for our purposes. And the reason why I even bother with unit testing in this game is because it is so large now that a drastic change, like modifying the amount of time that has passed, that the game thinks has passed for any given like units, is a very dramatic change. It is not a simple change. So right now I am rebuilding the game for the unit testing mode. So here, I'll pull this out actually. So for those who haven't, oh god, forgot how large this window is. So for those who haven't seen this project before, yeah, I actually run unit tests for my game. So every once in a while I'll go through and run all these tests. And they test all sorts of things. They test if buffs work, if equipping works, if monsters move right, if their damage calculations work. I've got over 200 tests now. And the best part about making unit tests is that it's like, I think of it as like hiring someone. Like, you have a quality assurance team, and every time you add a unit test, you're adding one worker to your unit testing team. So then you tell all your workers, you have all your little worker guys, you're like, hey, I need you all to check this specific thing. And all your workers go out and they do that for you. And they report back, hey, this is the result of that test. The thing you want me to do, it's still working. That's how I think of unit testing. It's a very fundamental thing to do on a larger project, especially for a game that has huge complexity, like this one. RPG games tend to get really complex. They have a lot of interactions and behaviors, and you never know when implementing a particular interaction is going to affect some other system. And if multiple systems break, then you will be able to tell almost immediately with the unit test. So, yeah. Writing these is time consuming. I will admit, it is very intimidating to write unit tests because you're like, well, it's such a simple little thing. Why would I write a unit test for it? And then you get around to having hundreds and hundreds of interactions, and all of a sudden something breaks. Like, you go in your game and you start playing it and something breaks, right? And you're like, when did this break? And then you realize, oh, it's because of this change or this change. Well, now I don't have to go in and test every single thing every single time I play the game. I run these tests. I know my game works every single time. That's the power of the unit testing. So right now it's going through and doing all these tests. And if you want to know what the code of these tests look like, they're like this. So a lot of times when you have a testing framework, you have like asserts. You're testing if certain variables are equal to each other. And basically each one of these tests is rerunning the game instance. So I have a minified, like, headless version of the game that I run. And this is all the initialization code for it. This was all done like long ago. Had to figure all this out, of course. Once we make all this initialization code here, the game is basically ready to be run just without the graphics. So even though like we don't see like the game window popping up or anything, each one of these starts a brand new instance of the game, all fresh. All the variables are reset, there's no monsters or players or maps. It has to reload these every single time. And that's important because every single one of your tests should be testing one thing individually and with nothing else being influenced by it. Like, your tests shouldn't affect other tests. If certain tests only work when other tests are ran before or after it, then you've got, like, contamination. You don't know if the function actually works or if it's because of a side effect of another test. There's a lot that goes into testing and testing frameworks and stuff. Sometimes I had to make specific testing functions too, or if I got tired of writing very verbose code, I would write all these little mini functions that would do things for me. So like, it got really annoying to write anything to test like casting an ability at a location, so because I had to set a naming location, had to prepare the cast manually, had to cast the spell, had to force the game to update. I just write a function for that, and now I can call that function, and it does that all for me. I mean, that's the whole point of having functions, is they will run a bunch of code for you. So you can see this is what testing code looks like. A lot of asserts to make sure things are as we expect them to be. I even have in-range functions for testing like between certain values. It's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to figure out how to make effective tests and an effective testing framework. I think these are things every developer should go through if they're planning on making a larger game. When you have unit tests, you are confident that everything you do and everything you write is going to work. Of course, it depends on the quality of the tests you write, but that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Is I implemented a major new feature to my game. I need to write tests for it. This is how it works right now. I'm also making sure everything about the game up to this point isn't broken because I added in that code. And yes, it takes a while to run. I think each test takes about 2 seconds. This takes almost 10 minutes to run. That's expected because we want to make sure the game runs all the code as if we were playing the game itself. That only makes sense. So it's expected that everything takes a while. My compile times take 3 minutes. This game, or these tests, take 10 minutes almost. So, like, the game is big enough to where we have to do that. But like I said, that's kind of like, to me, that's like a bragging right. That's like, oh my gosh, you wrote a pretty decently sized game. Your game takes a while to run and operate. There are ways to reduce the compile time, of course. I could turn some of my game into a library, but that also means I can't modify it anymore without modifying the library. So there's that. But for testing, obviously we want to test every individual thing every time. And I could run like only certain tests. If I know I'm only going to be affecting monster code, maybe I'll only write monster tests. But if we're being for real, we should always try to run all the tests all the time. You never know when, like, modifying the save game code somehow affects monsters being invulnerable when getting hit by, like, bullets that are blue. Like, something stupid like that is going to pop up, and you're gonna be like, really? How does that even happen? But we've seen it all. We've seen it all. You develop and program enough, and you see the craziest things you would never expect to happen. Like, we literally came back to this codebase after 6 months, and we can't resize the dang window. Like, what the heck? Why would we do this? Just all sorts of crazy stuff. It's wild. It's really wild. It's currently 2 p.m. So once, I guess we could start looking while this is running. Like, really, I should have been working on the new tests in the background while letting this run, but I just wanted to show that because I like showing that. Should I put this in another one? Maybe I should put these in another window just to free up some space here. Okay, so we're going to be adding tests in the, well, one in the monster test category, and 2 in the monster test category, and 2 in the player test, maybe 3 in the player test category. So let's get on with that. Let's collapse. All right, player tests. Let's go there. All right, so player tests. I haven't worked on these in a while, so I'm gonna be a little rusty in this one. But again, if you make your code readable enough and you make methods that have sensible names, then it should be pretty easy to continue where you left off and reference older code that you've used before. So yeah, let's start there. Start by creating a new test method. This is the, I think this is just called the Windows Testing Framework. It's the Visual Studio CPP Unit Test Framework. So it's built into Visual Studio itself. It will not be compatible with other frameworks, at least I don't think, not without extensive work or conversions, but hey, it is something. So I'm gonna call this the player haste move check. So what this is going to do is we're gonna first move the player for a certain amount of time, probably half a second. After we move the player for half a second, we're gonna check their position. Then we're gonna give the player a haste buff, and we're gonna have them move again. We should expect the distances between the two to be different. We could even calculate them on the fly and say, hey, this is what it's supposed to be. I think the player move speed by default is 100, as in 100 pixels per second. I could be wrong about that, but we'll double check. We'll figure that out. So we have our player. We have a test game instance here. This is the actual game running, but I like to associate with an actual player variable. That way it's just easier to work with. So what we're going to do is we're going to simulate a key press. Now, I think we have an easy way to do this, because we could just call the move function, but I think calling the key press function would be better, because that's actually what the player has to do in order to move the player. So making sure that part works is also a good idea. I don't see a key press example here by default. Oh, there we go. Test key. So we basically make a test key. I don't know, where do we set this? We must set it somewhere. Test key. Test game. Get keyboard state 0. Oh, it's a dummy key. So really we are going to add keybind, key 0. I see what's happening here. That's how we did that. Well, we don't want that here. This time we actually want to use a proper keybind that's already built into the game, at least I hope. So we're going to try and simulate that. I don't quite... Maybe we do just call move then, because I think we simulate the inputs by calling what actually needs to be called. I'm pretty sure there's a way to say press key though. I'm pretty sure I've made this before. But let's find out, because it looks like what I'm going to have to do is add a keybind specifically for that key. So I guess I could do it this way. So we're going to press right, or I guess in this case D. The D key lets us move to the right. Then we're going to get the keyboard state for the D key. Is that what that's for? Yeah. And after we do that, we have the ability to control it. So we're going to say test key be press or be held is going to be true. So anything that involves the D key being pressed down will now be activated on its own for testing purposes. So that should start moving the player. So now we're going to advance the game by half a second. We're also going to store the current position of the player. So player pause, player, let's say original player pause. I think that's a good name for this. Original player pause is going to be player. It's probably just get pause or get position. Yep, get pause. Simple enough. Now we're going to advance the game by a certain amount of time. So we have a function for that. Hopefully I can find it. Let's see. There we go. We just call on user update. Say elapsed time on user update. I think there is a... let me duplicate this window real quick. I think it's Control Shift T. No, I think I can just hold Control. Pretty sure. Oh, I know what it is. Window. feel like there's a way to get another instance of this window up. There should be. New window, it should be Control-Shift-N. Oh, maybe I have to click it. There we go. There we go. Got it. Okay. I think I have a test. Let me see. Game helper. I have a way to... There we go. It's called update. Fair. So we call game. I probably wrote that code before I made this, but this essentially does both of these functions for us at the same time. So game update, we're going to go half a second while holding down the D key, and the player position should now be in a different spot. So first we're going to assert that these two are not equal. So we're going to check the original player pause, which I'm going to make const as well. And then we're going to check the new player position, and they should not be equal. And we're just going to say as a statement, the player should have moved when holding down the D key. So we have to rebuild for the unit testing to realize we've made a change. So we're going to rebuild. Looks like something... Oh, when we do this, we have to make sure we have 2 string conversions, or we have something to some equivalence test. So for 2 vectors, it doesn't know how to check if they're equal. So what we like to do instead is we say assert is true, which I think will do what we need to do. So we just say, are these 2 equivalent? We do have an equals equals operator overload for vectors, so that should work. So let's try that. Also, these should not be true. So I guess I could write is false, right? And this will assert if that's not the case. So is false. And if we want to go a step further, we could even display what the values are, but this should be fine. So now that we've built that, we should be able to see that the test has popped up here and it's just untested. So we can specifically run this test only. Okay, so we're running that specific test. Hello, Visual Studio. You want to work? Oh, you want to reboot, I guess. Well, damn. Okay. That was not what I was expecting at all. What the heck? All right. Can we actually test this, please? So it failed. So we're gonna have to debug it because it clearly didn't do what we needed to do. I wonder why. That's kind of weird, right? But yeah, check that. I will be right back. All right, we're back for more silly fun. Also, is this just gonna keep going, or let me see? How long does this go? Oh, is this almost done? Do I have autoplay on? I don't think so. My plan though was just to loop it, so we'll loop it. Okay. Hi there. Yeah, I definitely still play DDR every day. It's currently 2:19. I was thinking doing a stamina session probably in a little bit, but I don't know. I could do it later too. I haven't decided yet. We'll see where this goes. Anyways, this doesn't work. So game update is supposed to call on user update, which calls basically everything, including the player movement code, in theory. So the only reason it wouldn't work is if handle user inputs is not technically working. So let's see. Let's go to, is this a global game updates? And then we have state update, which should lead to, now, if we have a state that doesn't call player updates, that's a problem. Maybe that's the first issue. Let's see what state we end up in. My hates Python based, but why hate Lua? It mostly stems from just how, I think my biggest annoyance with it, honestly, was the one index array thing. My biggest pet peeve, but also it's just a little more limiting. I don't really have, like, I guess hate is the wrong word. I should probably change that, I'll be honest. Indexes do start from 1. Oh, something about classes. Developing classes in Lua is weird. It's not even really recommended to build with classes in Lua. I think it's really weird. I work with object-oriented programming a lot, so it's kind of like trying to build classes in JavaScript. It's like the same, it has the same like funny problems that I think plague JavaScript when it comes to trying to make classes, but that's why we have TypeScript now. Also, if I try to use Lua in my projects, it's just a lot of added bloat, and then I realize I don't really want to have like a connector between Lua and my game. I'd rather just have like a C++ plugin or library connected to my game rather than trying to connect everything to Lua. But that's more of the developer side of it. I don't think I would mind like if I had to write something in Lua. It's most commonly used to extend games, so I don't think it's terrible in that sense. I think I just hate it more if I'm trying to integrate Lua. Then I don't really like it. Okay. So we need to figure out what is the state. Okay, state is game run. Okay, that makes sense. So we are here, which means we are calling handle user input. So this is where I suspect we're not doing what we need to do, because this has all the movement code. And I'm going to guess that this is not being called. So we're gonna put a breakpoint here. We're gonna see what happens. Okay, so we get to here, right held. So it says key right can be either key 4, key 52, controller key 15, or Steam key 19. Key 4 should be the D key, if I'm not mistaken, according to the Pixel game engine itself. So let's go double check. If I look at the key enum, it'll pop up here. There's so much key. Okay, key enum. So D is indeed, well, it should pop up 4, but if we count here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that makes sense. Yeah, this game uses OLC Pixel game engine. So that is what we're going with. So this should be pressed in theory. So we're gonna see why it's not, I guess. So input group. For each input, we're gonna iterate. So this is first checking for key 4. So let's see what held says. So for key, we're gonna say, all right, get key is based on the keyboard state. Let's look at that array. Go in the function, please. Or not. Okay, now we're in here. According to this, key 4, be pressed is false, be held is true. So we are indicating that be held is true. And we did enter the is focused function, so that's good. I need to look at my find symbol results. Or no, watch 2. Watch 2? Watch 1? Autos? Autos. So get key returns, be held is true. So we got that far. So this be held should be true. Input held, true. I remember you working on 2D game, the character could shoot arrows and stuff. Yeah, this is the same game. We're back working on it. My girlfriend recently got a Steam Deck, so I actually put my game demo on it, and I'm like, this is so cool. My game's actually on a little console. It kind of inspired me to want to finish it, so I'm back working on it again. I really do want to finish it. It would be nice to finish this game. I've made so much progress so far. Yeah, it was just like a cute moment where I'm like, oh my god, my game is actually on this thing. It's wild, and it runs beautifully too. A long time ago, probably a year ago, I started looking at the Steam API and integrating all that, and it works beautifully. Like, everything just works. I was just like, I always wondered, I'm like, I wonder how my game actually works on a Steam Deck. I would really like to get my hands on one and try it one day. And then it turns out it works wonderfully. Like, super wonderfully. I'm super happy. Okay, so here it's reporting the input is being held, which means we should be getting player movement. So let's back out of this function. And now we're back to here, where all the movement actually happens. So why aren't we moving is the next question. We should be getting down to here. And the move amount is 100. The move speed multiplier for the player should be normal. So we should be seeing a movement for the player. Let's take a look. Get move speed multiplier. I'm just gonna skip all the way down. Should be 1. It is. Okay. Oh, I should have checked. So the player's position is still 0, which is kind of weird. That means, because the move amount was 100, so it should have at least moved 100. What's FV elapsed time? 0.5? 0.5 times 100. 50 times 1. Player's X position. Player's X should now be 50. Oh, you know what? I forgot this map has no size. I totally forgot. So we're basically moving on a map of 0 size, so the player will get snapped back. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. Because there is another part to this code. It calls a function called _setX, which does a bunch of boundary checks. And one of the boundary checks is we clamp to the map size. I totally forgot about this. So if we're going to do this test where we move the player, we need to make a map large enough for the player to move in. Okay, that makes more sense. Back to the drawing board. So here's the map. It literally has nothing going on in it right now. I think it's just blank. It's just initialized. I'm trying to think of the way we would do this, because I haven't really needed an actual map to test on. Interestingly enough, we do spawn monsters, but everybody's like in one little spot. So let's take a look at this map. I think we can force it to have size. So let's see. Set map data. I think this was specifically made for us to mess with this. So map tags, we basically have to modify some of these. Can we get map data and modify it, I wonder? I think that would be easier. Like, this is technically the map data. So set map data is just whatever data we want to replace it with. So we have to initialize a new map tag with all this in it. So we'll make like a test map data. And I think we're gonna have to modify it individually. Oh, here we go. We get to set a width, height, tile width, and tile height for the map. In this case, I'm just gonna do a 100 by 100 map with tile widths of 24 by 24, like the actual game itself. And that'll give us enough room to play on. At least I hope it does. Okay, so now we should expect that the player actually moves when we perform this now, because the map is actually more than size 0. Are we stuck? Are we building or are we stuck? Oh, the test passed. Yay! Alright, good. We're excited about moving a player. Alright, next up is we need to test how far the player moves with the haste buff. So we know the distance. Let's measure that. Float moved distance is taking the two vectors and getting the magnitude of them. So we do the player's current position, and we say we're going to get the magnitude compared to the original player position. Distance formula, essentially. Now that we know how far the player has moved, based on that, technically we can just math it out. It's 50, we know that. Oh, hold on. I did this wrong. Distance between these 2 points. I think it's dot dist? Wait, how do you do this? I'm confused. Do I just add 2 vectors? Does that give us... No, you add the 2 vectors, or subtract. I guess you subtract, really. You subtract the vectors from each other, and then you take the magnitude of the 2 vectors to get the distance between them. Okay, there we go. Have I done any 2-player games? Yes, I have. Not like a networked game, though. But just like local multiplayer games, yeah. Just like little ones, like little test projects, nothing officially released or anything. This is really my first game I'm going like all out on, so. And it's taken years, of course. But I have some ideas of like little, more like cutesy games that I could work on that are just simple but fun to play for multiple people. I really do want to try and make some kind of like networked game in the future. That would be fun. So we measured the moved distance here. So we're expecting that the moved distance is now going to be different compared to before. In fact, I should actually just measure the actual distance and say we expect the player to have moved this far. If they move further than this, we have a problem. So I'm actually going to do this now, where I say, okay, let's test how far the player actually moved. So we're expecting moved distance to be equal to, in this case, 50 pixels. And the player should have moved 50 pixels, 50 units, I'm gonna say, in half a second, with no buffs. One Lone Coder did a networking video with SEO? Yeah, I did see that before. It's inspired me to want to do one networking game eventually. That'd be nice. OLC is One Lone Coder. One Lone Coder is basically a hobbyist programmer, YouTube influencer who writes a lot of fun little projects and has a wonderful community. I participate in their game jam yearly. I didn't participate last year for multiple reasons, but yeah. They are the person that made the game engine that this game is built on. It's not really a game engine, it's more like a library, but it's called the OLC Pixel Game Engine. It's wonderful for just building more like retro-looking stuff. Although its power cannot be understated, it also can do 3D as well. You can do 2D, like high definition 2D if you don't want pixels and all sorts of stuff. It's just a more like closer to the bare metal kind of engine. You're not actually going to bare metal, not in this day and age, but that's the concept at least. You get to manipulate pixels. You've seen some of his videos? Yeah, it's great. I love his content. And yeah, my game is based on the Pixel game engine. I was entirely inspired to work on it from him. And the Pixel game engine is also compatible with Mac, Linux. I tried it on my Steam Deck recently. That was super cool. That's actually what inspired me to come back and finish this game. And on the web, Mscripton. Mscripton's great. It supports OpenGL. So there were attempts to get Pixel Game Engine 3, the next version, to support Metal on Mac and Vulkan. There was like an attempt to put it on Vulkan, but really the focus is just on OpenGL. It's legacy. It's been around a long time. Yeah. It's unfortunate that Apple is not officially supporting it anymore, but it can still be used for now. Hopefully it stays that way. And there is another programmer in the OLC community who works on an Android ported version of it, so that's pretty epic. Android and Apple, iPhone and iPads and those kinds of devices. So that's kind of cool. There's a mobile, that's what it is. Yes, and literally using glue code with glue. I don't know if you pronounce it glue, but yeah. I would like to try compiling mobile versions of this game eventually. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of like Steam and Discord code like coupled in everywhere. So the last time I tried to build it, it's like, oh, where's the Discord API? I'm like, I'm not gonna use a Discord API on my mobile version, so I have to figure out a lot of the like includes and stuff later. But we'll get there. I'm just one girl trying to do all the work. It's a lot of fun though. It's a lot of fun making my own game. This is just my own passion project. So this test should pass. I'm actually gonna try running it again, just for a sanity check, and then we'll move on. Are you gonna crash on me again? Is that what we're doing? Ah, yes. Thank you, Visual Studio. I found the testing framework for this to be a little buggy sometimes, which is kind of unfortunate, but I'm kind of committed at this point, so it's very hard to use a different one. This is actually an old version. This is Visual Studio 2022. There's now 2025, I believe, and I haven't updated to it. I don't know if I should. I don't think it's wise to, really. If what I have works, then I don't really have a reason to update. There was a bug, like, this was months ago when I was working on the project, where I would try to multi-select, and it was, like, highlighting instead of multi-selecting, and I'm like, ooh, that's bad. I thought it was like my keyboard or something. I found out it's actually a bug in Visual Studio and it got reported. And then I waited like a month for an update to fix that. But other than something like that, I don't usually update because there's not really a reason to. That's what I get for updating in the first place, is everything breaks. And there's an X here for whatever reason. 2026? Oh yeah, we're in 2026 now. Happy New Year. A little late, but here we are. I haven't done programming in a long time, so... A long time meaning like 6 months for me. And that's not even true. I've actually been doing some projects like on the side underground for various things, but I haven't actually live streamed coding in a while, so it's kind of nice to be back at it. Okay, so it's actually saying I have the expected and actual backwards, but apparently we only moved 16.9706 units with that code, which... If I'm thinking about it, makes sense. The player has an acceleration and a velocity. So this velocity will go down every moment they're not moving, or the player has to accelerate. So they don't immediately reach the max speed, and they don't immediately slow down. So this kind of makes sense. You had a little 2D MMO? That's cute. I have a project called Fighter's Field, and I developed it a long time ago. It was meant to be an MMO, but I built it basically as a single-player, like, RPG, like, kind of grindy MMO game at first. Loosely based on games like Ragnarok Online and Fiesta Online. And I was supposed to eventually make a more modern version of it, or just make it again, but with more experience. I made it as a kid, and then I made a 3D version, and then I made a sequel to the 3D version, and the next step logically would be to actually make it multiplayer. I think that would be fun. But it falls under like the grindiness of like a Maple Story, or basically any Korean, insert any Korean MMO here, right? That kind of grind. So we'll see. I don't know what I want to do with that yet. It's just an idea floating around. I would like to someday make it again. It might be fun. Anyways, I have to flip these, and apparently the moved distance is going to be this. Now, a lot of times when I do this, it's technically cheating because it's like, oh, we expect you to move some amount of units. This is what we expect. But if I just set it to this number because that is what we get from our test right now, in the future, if we modify this code or if we modify something that affects movement and suddenly this particular check isn't working anymore, we know that the move speed somehow has been tampered with. And I think that's more important, is sometimes we don't know exactly what the result of the test is, but the key is that it doesn't change. If we run the test again in the future, months later, we should expect the same result. It's testing the same thing. Why would the same code do something different? Okay, this is just being stupid now. So probably internally the value is different. It's saying that we expected 16.9706 and we got 16.9706. Two ways I can solve this. I can either truncate it, or I can like round. I can check for a rounded value, be like, hey, is it within this range? I think it's better to truncate it, convert it to a string, and truncate it. It's kind of silly. Just to get like a networked game in, I have a falling block puzzle game I also want to try and get networking in at some point. It's based on Medios. Gravity-based match 3? Yeah, match 3 game. Match 3 or more. But it's gravity-based, so blocks continuously fall from the top of the screen, and you basically have to launch them back into orbit to get rid of them. It's very fun. It's more action-oriented version of like those match 3 kind of games. And different planets have like different properties to them, so some have more gravity, some have less. Some, depending on how you match them, sends them further or less further. Some have more launching power, so they'll get sent really high in one go. Some you have to combo a lot. Like, it really just depends. I just loved the aspect of all these different planets having different properties that make it fun, and it's like more action oriented. So it used the Nintendo DS touchscreen very heavily, so it was a game known to really mess up Nintendo DS touchscreens back then for players that had that game, as you had to do some really rapid and precise movements with the stylus. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I would like to make a game like that one day, for sure. Okay, so we're gonna truncate this. So first I'm gonna convert these floats to strings. This is gonna be a kind of a naive way to do it, but it's to kind of match up the number to whatever number this float wants to return. I think toString also has an argument to truncate right away. I could be wrong about this. If not, another way I could do this is standard format. I like that route actually, because the syntax is pretty clear. We specify, I think, as a colon, just and a decimal, followed by the number of decimal places we want, and I believe it will truncate it just like that. And if I'm wrong, it will yell at me. But this will be a string comparison instead, and since those two characters will be accurate, the test will actually pass. And that's all that matters here. Is it a little hackish? Sure. But, I mean, we just write code that works, right? Sometimes being hackish with code is funny. So now the test passes again, so I'm glad that works. I'm glad I remembered the standard format. It can be a little wonky. Okay, so next we are doing... So we're going to be comparing this distance. The distance we get when we hasten the player should be more than the current distance. By 0.3, hopefully. So what we're going to do now is give the player the hasten buff. We've already verified that the player moves just fine normally. So we're going to call add buff to the player. Oops. Let's do... It doesn't really matter, just do 10 seconds. It's gonna, or infinite. Infinite's fine. Intensity is... So we're gonna do 30% again. I just feel like that's a good test number. In theory, the move distance should be 30% higher. So if we multiply this by 30%, we should expect a number very close, if not exactly, that amount when we actually move again. So let's go ahead and try that. So instead of 16.9706, we should expect to move 22.061778 units. Somewhere around there. I'm just going to truncate it again. Are tests really useful? For larger games, yes. I talked a little bit about this earlier. I don't think you were here, but essentially, each one of these tests, like, I like to think of it as like I'm hiring one QA person to go in and be like, hey, every time I ask, I want you to test this particular part of the game and tell me if it still works. The more tests you make, the more useful this process becomes. So it's like I have over 200 workers where every time I want to make sure my game is working, I say, all of you, go test my code. Does it still work? Does it do what it needs to do? And yes, they are incredibly useful. They help you detect when, like, this is actually a perfect example. I wrote a haste buff where it actually modifies how fast everything runs. If it causes other bugs, these tests will detect that. But because the hasten system I added did not cause any of these tests to fail, I know all the other code in my game still works. Pretty much, yeah. That's essentially what it's for. And especially with an RPG game, right? We have a lot of interactions, a lot of status effects, a lot of, like, damage calculations, armor, equipment. If any of those numbers mess up and you can't detect that, you're gonna find out the hard way later and you're like, wait, why am I receiving 0 damage while attacking this boss or something? Like, that's wrong, and then you have to figure it all out. So, yeah. This becomes very helpful, I think, especially for RPG games, where there's so many different complicated interactions. And I want to be able to say with confidence, I can go in and change my code and run these tests, and my game still works the same way. Like, my game still works. All the systems still work. All the numbers are correct. All the systems actually work. Like, if a certain code just breaks the game, these will complain. So these have proven to be super duper helpful in a lot of ways. They're very annoying. You have to write them. It takes a lot of time to write. But like I said, it's like hiring a worker. Once you have that worker, they can check it for you every time. And once you've written enough tests, you feel a lot more confident about your game working. I just like running them to be like, yep, my game still works. So let's move the player again for half a second. And we should expect the distance to be higher now. We're going to calculate a new distance. This should be the hasten buff moved distance, which is now going to be, we need to again calculate a position. Original hastened player pause. We're going to use that variable right here. So let's update the game and then check the distance. And then from there, we're going to assume it's this number, but it could very well be something else. But the whole point is that whatever number we get, the next time in the future when we run these tests, the player should have moved. So I'm just going to put the actual number here. There we go. With the hasten buff. And I'll be honest, with my game project being as large as it is now, I think I've come to realize the expectation that all development is going to be slower now. The game is just exponentially more complex. There are many more systems. It just takes longer to build. Everything takes longer when the game is so large that you just come to expect that the pace of development is going to be slower. But one thing I realized is that coding is not really about how much code you can write, or programming a game or anything is not about how much code you can write, but how much time you spend developing a system that will stick around and last. Developing good systems, making sure you're cleaning up test code so that it's readable in the future, optimizing. You spend a lot more time reading code and rebuilding code than writing code, if that makes sense. I think when you're first starting out, you write a lot of code, of course. But I think the fascinating part is it moves back towards the whole, oh, now I'm spending time looking over code, finding bugs, writing fixes, optimizing things, writing unit tests to make sure my code works better. renaming, refactoring, so my code looks cleaner or my system makes more sense. I think everybody ends up coming to that realization that code writing does turn into that. And my Visual Studio keeps crashing. Maybe I should update this. Maybe it'll fix this crash. Do I use STL? Pretty heavily, yes, I do. Wow, we got 0. That's surprising. Are we not holding the key down anymore? I didn't stop holding the key down. I don't know why we haven't moved. We've moved 0. I'll check that in a minute. I would say I'm not like a heavy advocate for it, but I will use it sparingly to make certain things easier. I think the biggest thing I used it for was for my window management system. When I wrote the UI for my game, I found that I was handling a lot of pointers. So I ended up making this. I ended up making like a window system. I call them components. It has nothing to do with like an entity component system or anything. I just called my windows components. Basically UI elements. And where does this macro go? There's definitely more to this somewhere. Or maybe this is it. I don't know. I definitely have more to this somewhere. Maybe it's right here. Create menu. No. There's something very specific I'm trying to find and I can't find it right now. But maybe this is less STL and more just macro silliness. Yeah, this is more macro silliness. I was running into this issue where I wanted to display all the arguments for these components, but then I realized that by default, you don't get the arguments displayed if you use the STL like args, like the ellipses and the multiple arguments thing. At least my, what do you call it? My LSP does not auto provide what those are, so then I have to go look them up every time. So instead I just wrote this half-completed macro where it's like, okay, write out standard make shared, and then if you add a parenthesis afterward, it would act as if you were writing out a shared pointer, which would show all the arguments. That just drove me nuts. It's kind of silly. In terms of actually using the STL though, yeah, I like using it especially for like all these lists. The game's rendering uses a lot of it too. Let me see if I can find some code for that real quick. The rendering is pretty complex for the game. Naturally, there's so much going on. I even converted a lot of it to more modern C++ using ranges recently. So we have all these iterators, and I started converting them to range views because I realized range views are actually faster than the references and copies I was doing. So I ended up making some optimizations with that. At least I think I did. This doesn't look like it's range views. Hold on. More auto. We love auto. Can't tell what the heck it is. What are you? Help me. Yeah, like I said, the rendering is quite a bit. I was hoping to find a decent example, but I don't see it. But as you can see, I do use a lot of STL code just buried in here. Oh, here we go. Here they are. So here are the lists. They are range views instead of references or... So first, I had these as just vectors of... And I would copy everything. I'm like, that's terrible. I'm copying all this data 2 times just to render everything. And then I switched to references, like reference wrappers, and I'm like, this is fine. But now we have views, which are literally just lookup tables. And the views library is very fascinating. It has a lot of convenience features to just organize your lists and do all sorts of wacky stuff with it, but they're always references. Like, when I first learned about the concept of string view, just being a window looking into a string, I was like, oh, that's fascinating. That can actually be really helpful sometimes. Well, these are the same thing, but they're a look into any section of any particular vector or array. So that's absolutely fascinating. So I started using those, and it improved the speed of my code a lot, considering there's a lot going on here. Probably way more than there should be. Admittedly, this is not very optimal, but I optimized it using those new features, which is pretty nice. I think that's the most egregious example of me using the STL. But also as like a hobbyist programmer, I love to experiment with all sorts of new things. Like, yeah, I could just build everything the same old boring way, but I like to try new things too. It's fun. I'm here to have fun when coding. So apparently the player has not moved at all when we did this, so I'm very concerned now about why that is. I guess the first thing I will do is see if the player actually moves. So let's run it and debug. Like, the player's position should be the same as it was up there. It didn't get reset or anything, so let's find out. Once I'm happy with that, I will try and figure out the rest. Like, the key's still being pressed. Like, nothing has happened with the game. I just literally added the buff. Why would that stop the player, you know? So the player's currently at 12-12. Oh, that's kind of weird. Why is the player diagonal? I don't like that. I don't know what is going on there. That's fascinating. Now I'm curious, because that's not my intention whatsoever. What? Okay, we need to figure this out first. So I need to go back to handle user input, sorry. And we're gonna go... So obviously right was being held, but if the player's at 12-12, then that means down is being held as well. I'm scared. I'm really scared for what we're about to discover. Okay, but we should expect right is still held, and it is. And the move amount is still 100. None of this has changed. The player is still at 12-12 at this point. I wonder if it's reached at the map boundary. That sounds stupid. That should not be the case, right? So are we expecting to see if down held? Oh, okay. Down held is not there. Alright. Held down movement key is true, so we should be going in here. Movement velocity is 50 to the right, 0 down. This all looks correct. Oh, you know what? We're not moving on ground. I just realized why this happens. Just because we make the map larger doesn't mean we can move on the map. I forgot, the map by default, all tiles are considered untraversable. We have to add ground if we want the player to walk on the ground. That means I have to add tiles that are ground. That's kind of annoying. Okay, I'm trying to think how I did this before, because I definitely had to use, like, some kind of map when I was first testing abilities, because it would be the only way... Wait, hold on. So this is player tests. I'm gonna open up, enchant tests. So this file is important because this file contains all the enchant abilities, and we had to test them. Oh, here we go. So here we set the map size to 24 times 24. So 24 by 24 map, that's fine. But how did we test non-solid ground? I still don't see code for that, because I've basically done effectively the same thing here. Oh yeah, for sure. Always forget things. Like, surely we've done some, like, move stuff, or maybe... So we've spawned things. I guess nothing has actually moved before, is the thing. At least as far as I can tell. Well, we're gonna have to artificially add ground to this map, and I'm not quite sure how to approach that, because I don't think we have an exact way to just modify the map. So, it's gonna be a pain if I can actually do this, because the tiles are located... Well, let's see. So get map data is const, so it won't let us touch whatever it returns. So we would need a function specifically to let us modify that. But that's not even the data. All the tiles are in here. This is where they are, and that's gonna be const too. I'm starting to think I want to just, like, load in a map that I make myself. I think that would be an easier way to do this instead of trying to force my way to make some kind of... to spawn in some ground. That's definitely, like, the opposite way we want to handle it. So I think I'm gonna go to my maps. Where's my project? Project. I do not see where my project is. Hello? Maybe it's in here? Let's try recents. There it is. I don't know what folder that's in. Okay, where's my file selector? Oh, it's hiding. Alright, so if I can, I would like to just make a map that has squares. A couple squares on it. Like what I could do. I'm sure we have, like, a test map. Oh, we have this. Maybe I'll use something like this. I'm just gonna grab under layer... Okay, background. I want to just grab like these tiles. Like this is really all the space I would need to test movement. I don't really need much. So realistically, that's all I need. And I just throw that into a new map, 24 by 24. I'm just gonna paste this in. And now that I have that, I'm just going to lock out the rest of the map. So we're not gonna make it an infinite map anymore. Infinite, no. And then I'm just gonna restrict the size to 14. You know what? Now that we're here, we might as well add in more tiles. It doesn't matter what it looks like. No player is going to see this, at least normally. So we can do, at least the idea is to do. Can I just, I know there's a way to do this. Help. Hello? How big are the maps? Some are pretty big, some are tiny. It just depends. They can be any size. It was lagging? Really? Well, that's no fun. If I were to... I think this is my largest map, the first level. Most levels don't get much... Like, it actually does lag. Like, at this... If I zoom out, I have enough tiles and objects to where it's not smooth. So, there's that. This is a 214 by 205 tile map. There's a lot of blanks, of course, but that's a pretty sizable amount. Oh yeah, 720? I'm sure it would lag. This is like a third of that size. So I'm sure it would lag if you had a map that large. It's just tiled is so featured packed that if you need it for really large amounts of objects, it's going to be painfully hard to use. Also, suddenly I can't paint. Am I doing something wrong? Like this, hello? How did I copy these in, but I can't do anything else? Did I mess it up by making it not infinite? I don't know what I'm doing. Something's wrong. Yeah, that's always fun. I love making custom stuff, and I love it when others do too. You gotta come up with a solution that works for you, right? So that's always nice. I don't know why I need terrain fill mode, but okay. Okay, this is what I wanted this whole time. Come on. Was that so hard? Alright. I just want a 24 by 24 rectangle, and then I'm going to set the map width and height to that size. At least I should be able to. Auto crop. Perfect. This is all I want. I'll go ahead and throw it in here. This is just a testing map. And now I need to load it into the game. So what's gonna happen is I have a file called levels where we specify all the maps that we're supposed to load in. I think tests will also load these in, but we have to specify them ourselves. Like technically, I think we can actually use any maps. Oh wait, no, that's not true. We don't load maps by default, so we have to force load one map. So I will need to pull the map loading code if I want to load in a map, because by default we don't. So we have a load level function. I think we just call this, it has loading stuff though, like loading screen stuff. So I don't know how that's going to affect it, because I basically have to force a loading screen to get this map loaded because I divided everything up. So that's interesting. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So I think I have an idea for how I want to do this. Map loading comes in multiple phases, but really the only phase I need is the tile reading section. Once we have all the tiles, we don't care about parsing all the collisions, playing like the song sounds or anything like that. We just need to read the data. Thank you. So my goal is to only pull the part that reads the tiles. So we have to figure out how this is populated. It's probably just populated at the beginning of the game, if I'm being completely honest. Oh, here we go. So there it is. So essentially, we want to do this code right here that reads in the tiles. More or less. Wait, that's stage loot. Stage loot. Level.getData. Get data. Parsed map info. So this has already been populated somewhere else. So we're going to look at onUserCreate, which is called at the beginning of the game. We're looking for map data. And we purposely exclude this for tests because it's a lot of data. We don't need to load in every single map at the beginning of the game, right? In theory, initialize levels. Here we go. So this code, we don't call. I assume I took it out because it wasn't useful to us. So what I'm gonna try to do is only initialize the one map we actually need. It looks like I just have to call initialize level on whatever map I am interested in, and yeah, it will do the rest, which is great. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and call this function and see what happens. So only for, I guess this particular test, because I don't really want to have it running for every test. That's just going to waste time, right? So test game, initialize level, map path. So we provide a key. I assume the key is the level itself. So let's take a look. Okay, great. So it reads directly from map file. So if I say test map, and the map file is called testing_map, then the rest will fall into place. Perfect. Okay. So with that initialized, I don't know why I have to specify the key twice, but okay. The next thing to do is to load that map instead. So I assume by default we're actually in that map. I don't see anything that says we are in that level. Like, did we get forced into campaign 1-1? Is that what's happening? Like, how does it know we're on this map? We just made up the map. And beats me. I'll be honest, I don't even think this did anything. Like, how does the game know we're actually in this map? I don't think it does. Like, we're supposed to say, like, oh, set the current level to something else. Maybe that's what we have to do. There it is. Set current level. How convenient. So do we call that somewhere? Set current level? I feel like we do. Otherwise, because that function is too convenient. Underscore functions are usually made to backdoor into something that I can't solve without modifying the project very heavily. So let's see what happens. Where does this get used? Ah, it does get used in buff tests. And we have a setup mock map function here, but see, we don't even like load an actual map that has stuff in it. So that's still not useful. Like, it's interesting that we have to go through all these hoops for this, but this is probably the first time where we're testing like physical movement and positions within a map through tests. So I think this is a very good exercise in demonstrating that, hey, we have a problem, here's how we have to solve it. We haven't solved it yet when it comes to testing our game. So setting the current level means that now everything happens in that stage, at least I would hope. That's my theory. I would hope that's how this works. So we pull from map data, it has to be from a certain level, the current level. Like, it's my understanding that's where all the collision and stuff comes from. Like, let's go back to handle user input real quick. Like, there it is. Then we have to call get current level to see what tile set we pull from. If our current level is something else, we're not going to pull from the collision data for that tile, for that map. So this seems to be what we want. I think we're on the right track now. And that would explain why we've had some weirdness so far. So let's go ahead and restart this code now and see what happens. Hopefully this gives what I need. I need my test explorer. Where's my test explorer? Help. Window. View. Test explorer. She disappeared on me. Alright, assert failed. Still. Wait, are you building? You're building. Syntax error. Classic. I need to charge my phone. Alright. Like I said before, I hope we get to have more of these coding sessions now. At least for a little while. It'll be fun to work on the game every once in a while again. I would like that. Like, I hope I don't disappear for like another 6 months after one day of coding. Okay, so we actually have a fail here on trying to load this level. Let's see. So it's an exception. Maybe it just doesn't know this map file exists. Is it not being copied to the directory? So basically how the unit testing works is that when it tries to run the unit test, it copies a whole bunch of files over here, or not here. Debug? No. But it will copy everything into another directory. It's probably out here. Okay. Unit testing. So assets. So my question is it just not copying the map? The map was called... Well, it's under campaigns, right? Oh, so the campaigns folder is purposely not being copied. Interesting. We need to add that to the script. So there's a script that copies stuff from this directory to the test directory. I forget what it's called though. We can check though. If I go under the solution properties and we go under custom build steps or build events. So the pre-build event, it runs unit testing prebuild.ps1, a PowerShell script. It's under the previous directory right here. So looking at this PowerShell script, we copy force everything in assets to unit testing. So interestingly enough, it's not copying that particular folder. It's only copying, oh, wait, where's the campaigns folder? Commercial assets? No. Campaigns. Okay, hold on. Maybe I'm blind. It's probably there. Okay, campaigns. Testing map is in there. So that's not the issue. Alright, debug time. Right now it's just parsing these bracket operators, which is fine. Alright, now we're getting to the meat and potatoes of it. I hope at least. Assets/campaigns. Initialize level. This is map file assets campaigns testing map. So far so good. Okay. Initializing a bunch of things. Read file. Do stuff. Read file, read file, read file. This is my custom parser for all tiled maps. So this isn't anything like from a library. I just wrote this myself. So that's always fun. Wait, it died. Why'd it die? It died in the while loop. How's that possible? You don't just go in the while loop and the end. What? Oh, I should probably look at the error log. So there was probably an error log output somewhere. Let's take a look. It says map assets campaigns testing map does not have a class. Oh, I forgot. It's going to follow the rules of a normal map. So this is just a pre-check where it says if you want your map to work, you have to set it to the map class. A very simple oversight. Whoops. Okay. Made an oopsie. Still doesn't work yet, but we'll check the file again now that we know that this can happen. We want debug.log. It still says it does not have a class set. Maybe that's an old file? It still says it doesn't have a class set. Maybe now that I've changed it, I have to save it again or something. Let me just take a look. Let me open that specific file. Okay, it does not. So somehow it didn't save or copy over. So I set the class map here. So I'm gonna guess that I have to copy it over manually because maybe it's already there now. So it's using an old asset. That would be my guess. It probably doesn't overwrite by default. Just like, fine, whatever. Okay, so now we've got to here. That's progress. And assert failed. So this assert is actually up here. And this time the move distance is 51.42. So we have an actual distance now that the player can move properly on a map with actual ground. This is really good news, actually. So that's exciting. So I'm gonna put that now as the new check distance, which means we would expect a player that is moving with the hasten buff would move an additional 15.426 units, putting us at 66.846, roughly 66.84 if we trim it or truncate it. All right. Well, that explains why we weren't moving 50 units. I'm like, I always thought we were working in pixel units, and I was trying to explain it with like friction acceleration and stuff. I'm like, that still doesn't check out, you know? It should still move roughly 50 units. We just have slowdown at the very end. So that definitely didn't check out. All right, so for the second one, our actual was 50, which is weird. How do we get exactly 50? That doesn't make sense, right? Yeah, first of all, why would we move slower in the same amount of time? That doesn't make sense. If anything, we should have moved further. So the player position after all that is 50,12, which makes sense. Actually, does it make sense? How do we get a magnitude that is... hold on. Does that seem odd to you? Why is the magnitude 51.41 if we literally move horizontally from x0? Oh, because y12 is still happening? I don't know why the y is 12. I think that's where the player gets snapped to, and we didn't account for that. How about let's teleport the player real quick. Oops, that's Korean. We don't want to type Korean, do we? We're gonna force set pause here. I have a function called force set pause, which is only useful for situations like this where we really want to measure a very specific amount of movement. If I start the player at 1212 instead of 0, then the player will have moved 50. That doesn't explain why with the hasten buff though, the player still moves 50, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I guess that's the next thing to figure out afterward, is why does that happen? Okay, so let's fix that. We should expect exactly 50 now. I think I can actually write that number and it will no longer complain. Alright, so we're gonna try that. Hopefully the test passes. Alright, good. So the first unit test passes. Now we're on the second one, where we start at 62, 12. The hasted move distance is still 50. I don't know why that is. Because yes, we still move half a second, but now the player should be faster. In theory, that's how it should work. At least that's how I expected it to work. So I guess we call game update, we call on user update. On user update we'll call... I guess we're gonna have to go in and look now, because that's interesting. Yeah, we're gonna have to go look. Let's go in. So on user update, we're going to global game updates. We're going to... We have to do state updates. So state updates, current state, where's state? There it is. So we're gonna go down here. On user update, we're going to... Oh, is this the problem? Alright, let's take a look. Maybe we don't quite handle this right, and maybe this test will actually reveal something. Because here's the thing, even... So the FE elapsed time is still 0.5. It's like haste didn't apply yet. Oh, you know what? I know what happened. I forgot. You have to force an update when you apply a buff. You can just game update 0, but the player doesn't have the haste at this point. Yep, that's an oopsie. I forgot that's the thing. A lot of stuff, because you can't really modify lists, like remove and add, on the same tick, a lot of stuff will happen a tick later, so we have to force that by doing that. There we go. Yay! It's 65 now, which is exactly 30% higher. Woo! Yeah, it worked. Okay, I have to put 65 though. God, isn't coding fun? Alright, let's make sure this works. The test should now pass. And then we would kind of do the same thing but for monsters. But we've ran the test for players at least. Ah yes, the crash. I will try updating Visual Studio tonight. I want to see if that fixes this. I feel like my test suite has always been a problem, and I really wish it would be fixed. So maybe we can be fingers crossed for this update. And I typed in you by accident. Alright, one more time. Please, 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 please. Please don't break. Yes. Woo! It's something. It's all about the small victories, right? Okay, so I'm gonna commit this. We still gotta rate 3 more tests. They'll be a lot quicker now that we know how to do this. So this has been a good learning experience. It taught us that we have to actually load in a test map and provide a way for the player to move. Or a monster in another case. We haven't really had to test movement in tests before, so this was a good experience. It taught us how to emulate the key press again, and it taught us how to load in a level. Just a single level, not all the levels, which would take a lot of time. Implemented player movement verification test. And this is 227 tests passing. And this is release build 12275. Whew, I haven't had to talk this much in so long. I'm starting to lose my voice. Damn. Wild. Alright. So this is that. It's still part of the Skeleton Barbarian commit because the Skeleton Barbarian commit is supposed to include the new haste buff. So even though we haven't worked on the Skeleton Barbarian at all yet, this was our little side quest to eventually get all the functionality we need for the Skeleton Barbarian. So we're gonna keep working on that next time, just a few more tests, and then the haste behavior is ready to be used. And cool enough, the Skeleton Captain also will provide the haste buff to other things. So it's useful to get this working now, because it's going to be beneficial for other things later for the game. But yeah, there's a lot to do, a lot to work on. And of course, we find many unexpected bugs, like our window resize being capped for some reason while I was experimenting and left it in the master build. Like, what the heck for 6 months, and then I come back to start with that. I can't even explain how frustrating that is. To be like, why am I putting some test code not in its own branch and in the master build that I'm coming back to months later just to find out I have to fix it all? Oh, coding's fun. Coding's fun, y'all. That's gonna be it for me for today. For those of you that tuned in, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time. I hope I get to do this more. I really do. I'm really excited to do more of this again. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye.